Hello, spooky people. It is currently Monday night, and the only thing scarier besides, the bad things of the world is an air conditioner unit that goes out and you have to replace the entire thing. So it's been a fun couple of days. It's been 85 in my house since Saturday. Luckily, they were able to come in and fix it today, but that doesn't help the terrifying number that they give you because they replace literally the entire unit and my heater. It's been a fun time, guys. It's been a great weekend. So, I have the house to myself for the night, and I've got my facial stuff on, doing a little pampering. I've got my lemon lavender cocktail, and I've got a cryptid for you today. I have no housekeeping, no announcements, nothing like that. But this cryptid I'm super excited about. It is my favorite cryptid, and you can thank the video game Until Dawn for that. And it's not really a spoiler telling you what this cryptid is, because if you've seen the movie, you probably already know what's in it. And the OG game, for all of us purists out there, this is pretty known that this is what it is fairly quickly into the game. So, we are going to talk about the Wendigo, or as Supernatural calls it, the Wendigo. It can go both ways. I'm going to be calling it the Wendigo. I think it depends on the tribe. The game calls them Wendigos. I don't know why Supernatural calls it the Wendigo, but they probably did different research than the creators of Until Dawn, which, if you get the game, you can see the behind the scenes, and they did do a lot of research. They actually went and talked to the natives of the North. So that is what I'm going to be calling them, is the Wendigo. And Wendigo is a correct term as well. But this is my research on top of their research and what I found. Both pronunciations are correct. Neither are wrong. So, without further ado, the Wendigo originated by indigenous people who inhabited large parts of both northeastern seaboard and the continental interior, especially around the Great Lakes and the St. Lawrence River. And if you look up kind of like, because this is also what I found was like a map of like regions and what their most favorite like cryptids are. Wendigo is up in like the North Peninsula of Michigan, the top of Minnesota, and Canada along that border. I'm sure it goes farther into Canada because cold and mountains and whatnot, but the map I saw, that's just like the general vicinity that it gave me. So, Wendigos are a spirit of winter, a symbol of the dangers of selfishness. The beliefs do vary, but they are generally considered a horrifying entity with an insatiable taste for human flesh. And anyone who encounters a Wendigo risks being devoured or even being turned into a Wendigo. The most common way to turn into a Wendigo is to eat the other person. So, they're usually, when you hear stories of the Wendigo, the miners had a mining cave in and they ended up eating each other and they turned into Wendigos. That just seems to be like a common theme when it comes to telling stories of the Wendigo. At least I see a lot of those types of stories. So the most common is You starve, you eat human, spirit of Wendigo takes over. So one usually becomes a Wendigo as punishment for dishonorable or tattoo. Just kidding. Taboo activities such as cannibalism due to starvation or because a shaman cursed them or dreamt of a Wendigo. The myth was also used to explain mental illness. So there's a lot of things that the what do you call it? I'm sorry. The natives use this story for. So one of the original stories of the Wendigo. The first Wendigo was once a lost hunter. During a brutally cold winter, the man's hunger drove him. Can I talk today? Not really. The day's getting to me, guys. During a brutally cold winter, the man's hunger drove him to cannibalism. After feasting on another's human flesh, he turned into a crazed man beast roaming the forest in search of people to eat. Another version says that the Wendigo was a warrior who made a deal with the devil in order to save his tribe. He gave up his soul and was transformed into a Wendigo. When peace ensued, there was no need for such a fearsome creature, and the warrior was banished from his tribe and forced to live as an outcast. Roughly translated, Wendigo means evil spirit that devours mankind. Another story by a German explorer around 1816 equated Wendigo with cannibal. Described by some as giants measuring about 14.8 to 15 feet in height, there are slight variations to the physical description amongst different Algonquin peoples, but generally agree that the Wendigo have glowing eyes, long yellowed fangs, and long tongues. So I am going to say this. If you look up a picture of a Wendigo, I'm not kidding you, the closest thing outside of actual Native American drawings is going to be Until Dawn's version of the Wendigo. Because of the amount of research that the writers did, and they interviewed natives and everything. They traveled and they really researched into it because they wanted it to be as accurate as possible, so that way it was respectful to the natives, because this is their story. These are their myths, folklore, um spirits. It really just depends on the tribe, uh what the extent of belief is. Some tribes do believe it's just a story to scare children. Others believe it truly exists. What those different tribes are named, um, I couldn't tell you because they keep calling them Aboriginals and Algonquins, but I keep seeing the word Algonquin thrown around as Canadian natives, so I don't really know what tribes, unfortunately. I wish I did. But Until Dawn's version is probably going to be the closest thing that you see outside of native drawings. The drawings today that people do in pop culture, some like tall, skeletal, wolf like antlered, kind of goat looking thing, is nowhere near the description of what a Wendigo is. If you see that, they're wrong. I'm sorry to burst your bubble. But that is not the true description of a Wendigo. I just thought I'd throw that out there. It is very heavy in my research of people being upset about the lack of, I don't want to say authenticity, but the lack of closeness to the description that it's not, I guess, is the best way. I can't really think of the word that I'm trying to say, but either way, gist of the explanation, those drawings are wrong. So most are said to have sallow and yellowish skin, though others say they are matted with hair or have decaying skin. Again, the Wendigos are not pretty. Ethno-historian Nathan Carlson says it's also been said that the Wendigo has large, sharp claws, massive eyes like an owl. Some other people say it has a skeleton-like figure with ash-toned skin. There are also different versions of the legend, which different things are said about speed and agility. Some claim it's fast and can endure walking for long periods of time, even in harsh winter conditions. Others say it walks in a more haggard manner, as if falling apart. And some say it is like really, really fast, lightning speed. And I really only have until dawn to go off of at the moment. They, can like crawl around and be very agile and can do a lot of parkour things that no human being can do. So once it has infiltrated the human mind, it can turn them into a Wendigo, as well as instilling upon them the same lust for human flesh that it has. A claimed infamous case is that of a swift runner, a Native American man who murdered and ate his whole family during the winter of 1879. According to Until Dawn, a behind the scores interview of Native American, the swift runner claimed to be possessed by a Wendigo spirit, and he was hanged for his crime. And this is a very well-known story. And I think I have it written down again somewhere. But we'll get to that. I'm going off my notes, obviously. So some believe the human personality continues to reside from inside the creature. Most cases, death is the only way to free a person of the Wendigo. And it says that you can shoot them to slow them down, but fire is what really kills them. But if you kill them, you're just releasing the spirit. You're not actually killing the Wendigo. The spirit is still out there, but at least it's not chasing you anymore, I guess. Spirit that can't really kill you, death. But on the other hand, the spirit can just go into somebody else. Circle of life or circle of supernatural beings. They're believed to roam around the forest where the Algonquins lived, and forest dwellers that have disappeared are rumored to have been eaten by these creatures. Sightings have been reported over time, not only by natives, but by white settlers as well. Unsolved disappearances in the early 20th century were blamed on Wendigos by the Algonquin tribes. In the beginning of the 20th century, 87-year-old Jack Fiddler was tried for the murder of a woman. He pleaded guilty, but using the defense that the woman was turning into a Wendigo as she was being possessed by an evil spirit. So she had to be killed before she murdered others in the tribe. He also claimed to have killed 13 other Wendigos in his lifetime. That's pretty crazy if he actually killed 13 Wendigos. Believers say Wendigos are still out in the woods, and underneath the monster is a human. So remember, these things were human at one point. And if you follow the reports of people, eating other people, as the Wendigo does, they turn into a Wendigo from that. They're still a human person. They're just turning into a monster. Kind of like a werewolf, but way worse than a werewolf. They are believed to have exceptionally sharp eyesight, hearing, and sense of smell, superior strength and speed in order to stalk and overpower victims. Some legends say the heart must be cut out, melted, or burned for the spirit to truly be vanquished. In Cree mythology, the Wendigo is an evil spirit that possesses humans. Spirit enters by biting them or through dreams. The possessed person becomes cannibalistic or otherwise deranged and violent. Some people are believed to be more susceptible to becoming possessed, including those who are greedy and gluttonous, as well as those suffering from starvation or hunger. Some anthropologists believe the legend is a cautionary tale about the importance of community to guard against individual greed, selfishness, and isolation. The Wendigo is a personification of cold and hunger when human survival relied on working collectively and sharing resources, especially during long, harsh winters of the northern wilderness. May have also served as a warning for children to not wander too far into the woods. Again, back then, doesn't matter if you were native, white, black, Asian. We all told stories to scare children into not doing things. Almost kind of like growing up and your mom told you turning on the light in the car was illegal because they didn't want you to turn on the light in the car. It's not illegal to turn the light on in the car while the car is moving. They just didn't want you to turn on the light in the car. They didn't want them to wander off into the woods and die. Or have a bear eat them while they're in the woods. It's scaring children into submission. And back then it worked. Kind of. You had the kids who rebelled. The first known written mention appears in not 1936, 1636 by Paul Lee Jeunet. Again, French. Not my strong suit. He was a French Jesuit missionary among the Algonquin people, which is now Quebec. And Lejeune, pronouncing it wrong again, described a woman who warns of, I can't read my own writing, guys, warns of an creature that had eaten some tribal members nearby and that would eat a great many more if he were not called elsewhere. Crimes that included murder and cannibalism were often blamed on the Wendigo. Alberta, Canada, 1879, Swift Runner told in his dreams to eat his family. Sandy Lake First Nation Community, Northern Canada, 1907, Jack Fiddler strangled Joseph's brother's wife daughter in law. And he and Joseph were tried. Jack, the brother, escaped the police and strangled himself. And Joseph died of TB in prison in 1909. Early 20th century psychologists used the term Wendigo psychosis and missionaries to describe a culture balance syndrome among Native and First Nation people. Symptoms included delusions of becoming possessed by an evil spirit, depression, violence, a compulsion for human flesh, and in some cases, cannibalism, which isn't that the same thing as compulsion as human flesh? That was the list, guys. I'm not kidding. That was the list. In So the syndrome was diagnosed retroactively in historical cases of cannibalism in North America as well. However, the existence of the syndrome is disputed by some scientists. Science. For centuries, indigenous artists and activists have drawn on the Wendigo legend literally and metaphorically. This would address the issues of colonialism, violence, and environmental destruction. Louis Erdrich wrote Wendigo in 1984, a poem that tells a story of a man trapped inside a Wendigo. He abducts a young girl who in turn releases his spirit. She also wrote a novel in 2012 called The Roundhouse about an Ojibwa boy in North Dakota who urges the legend of the Wendigo to explore views of retribution and justice among his tribe versus those of the US government. They are they are also described as tall, thin creatures with pale skin, resembling a gaunt skeleton and emitting an odor of decomposition and corruption. So, you know, after doing this research, when I see corruption or I think of corruption, I think of decomposition now. So, you're welcome for putting that in your brain. Superhuman strength and stamina, as we mentioned before. And if you were to eat someone of your own tribe, you would be hunted and burned. This was the only way to kill a Wendigo in the Ojibwa tribes. Also, Wendigo was used as a warning to hunters to not kill too many animals, so not to be in a situation where you would resort to cannibalism. Algonquin and Algonquin tribe describes it as a giant with a heart of ice. Sometimes it is thought to be made of ice entirely. This body is skeletal and deformed with missing lips and toes. It's missing body parts. Tiny body parts, but body parts. But then I think we can't walk without toes. Heck, if we lose our pinky toe, we're off balance. So it's interesting that they can move so agilely without toes. I want to know how that works. The Ojibwa tribe describes it as a large creature as tall as a tree with a lipless mouth and jagged teeth. Its breath was a strange hiss, its footprints full of blood, and it ate any man, woman, or child who ventured into its territory. And these were the lucky ones. Sometimes the Wendigo chose to possess a person, and then the luckless individual became a Wendigo himself or herself, hunting down those they had once loved, feasting upon their flesh. In the 1800s through the 1920s, sightings were reported near Ro- Rosesso? Rosescu? I can't pronounce this, guys. It's in northern Minnesota. Each time it was reported, an unexpected death followed until finally it was seen no more. Peter Flett, Fiddler's brother, was killed after turning Wendigo when found when when food ran out. Peter Flett, Fiddler's brother-in-law from the previous thing, was killed after turning Wendigo when food ran out on a trading expedition. Hudson's Bay Company traders, the Cree and missionaries, knew the legend but explained it as mental illness or superstition. Regardless, several incidents of people turning Wendigo and eating human flesh are documented in the company's lectures. Frequency of Wendigo psychosis decreased sharply in the 20th century as the natives came into greater contact with Western ideology. But Wendigo sightings are still reported in northern Ontario near the Cave of the Wendigo and around Kenora, where traders have allegedly spotted Wendigos by trackers and trappers for decades. Many still believe that it roams the woods and prairies of northern Minnesota and Canada. Kenora, Ontario, Canada, has been given the title of Wendigo capital of the world. Sightings in this area continued well into the new millennium. So, today in pop culture, gets it wrong, including the Native American and First Nation community depictions. Most Native American legends, the physical form of the Wendigo is often said to be human-like. Over time, it becomes giant. Some stories say the Wendigo has a heart of ice and so hungry for flesh that it claws its lips off. Pop culture tends to give it a liken to a werewolf, vampire, yeti, or some combination thereof. Google searches show an antlered snow demon, and indigenous people never depicted the Wendigo in this way. Among many native peoples, the Wendigo remains a warning for greed, but now they associate it with excess of capitalism and colonialism rather than wilderness or barren winters. In native depictions, tend to offer hope as the endings are happy and the characters escape the Wendigo. So their stories now are happy stories, you know? They aren't super, terrifying like we depict in horror movies. But, you know, I can't control the world. But now you know the real Wendigo in depiction and the actual native beliefs behind said Wendigo. Another version of the man that was hanged, whatever. In the interview of the native person that the writers of Until Dawn had interviewed, it was very, very close to what I read in here. The only thing was he said that there was a family in Michigan, and I believe they were native, and they were moving the family. And he decided that they were going to move during one of the harshest winters that Michigan had had. And going north, if you've ever been in northern Michigan, you can tell that winters up there are probably not exactly the funnest. at least where we were, it was very secluded. There were snowmobile signs everywhere, so you wouldn't be able to drive your car. I'm not kidding you. The closest thing to breakfast was where we ate dinner down the street from the motel we stayed in. And the next closest breakfast place was 14 to 20 miles away. That's just to give you some kind of reference of how secluded you are. If you have a house up there, you're most likely going to stock up on supplies when you go up because you don't know when you'll be able to go to the store because the store is so far away. And if you do go to the store, you're going to stock up because it's so far away. So, harsh winter, going up north, especially in the 1600s, it's going to be super, super cold and super, super snowy. And because of this, as they traveled, they kind of got stuck in the woods and the family began to starve to death. And he ended up eating his family. And then he reached the village and he was tried and hanged for eating his family. I'm pretty sure I'm remembering that story correctly. But if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. You may correct me. Please be nice about it. But I'm pretty sure that that was what he said in the interview of the behind the scenes of Until Dawn. Super cool behind the scenes. I highly suggest watching it if you have the game. Or if you get the game and want to play it. When you unlock it, watch it. I really found it, the behind the scenes, kind of fascinating because then they also showed you how they did the animation because the actors in it are actually actors. Hayden Panettiere, Rami Malek. Those are the two big names that are in that game. I don't remember her actual name, but she played Tiffany in Sunny with a Chance, the blonde. She's in it. It's very strange to me. And if you play it, you'll understand, I think, why. It's a very drastic change from Disney. Anyway, it's good. It's a great game. It's besides Baldur's Gate, this is my favorite game. And it's so easy to play. But that game is why I have been obsessed with the Wendigo for a while. And it's just so fascinating. I'm still scared of skinwalkers way more. But I don't know what I would choose to run into if I had to pick between them. At least the Wendigo I know to have a flamethrower. Now that I think about it, I don't really know how to kill a skinwalker. Maybe I'll do well, no, I know I will do a episode on skinwalkers. And I know that I'm probably speaking about them wrong at this point in time. So please don't come at me. I know there's a lot of controversy over calling them skinwalkers and that only natives can call them skinwalkers. I think our politically correct term is mimic, but then also I know other things that are mimics that are not skinwalkers. I've also heard them called skin pedestrians, which I don't know if that's insulting or ingenious. So I just want to point out here, I know it's the end, so if you made it this far, thank you. I just want to point out that I am 100% trying to be as considerate and politically correct as possible. there's just so much controversy over everything right now that I'm doing the best that I can because I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want to upset anybody. I don't want to disrespect any tribes. Um, really don't want to disrespect the Native Americans. I have so much respect for them. And their history is a whole other story and podcast. I'm sure you can find one, and documentaries. Honestly, it's horrifying. But I'm trying to be as respectful as possible. So if I end up saying something or whatever, so far I think I've been doing okay. Nobody has said anything to me about anything at this point in time. But please respectfully point it out and don't come at me. I am conscious of the things coming out of my mouth, and I'm trying very, very hard to be politically correct and as respectful as I possibly can. I just hear so many different things that I don't know the exact correct form of speaking on things, specifically the skinwalker thing. I know them as skinwalkers. I know a lot of other people know them as skinwalkers. But I've also heard that unless you're native, you can't call them skinwalkers. So until I figure out the politically correct term that we all know and can understand, because to me, mimic is something completely different, I'm going to hold off on that. And I'm sorry I just went on this whole rant about respect and not offending people and whatnot, but I'm really trying really hard because I listen to too many podcasts that people start getting very angry about the things that they talk about and say that are true, but apparently the terminology being used is not politically correct because they don't belong to that specific community. That's something that I don't want to do. I don't want to offend people again. So it's coming. I just don't know when. But it's coming. I have all of my research. I'm trying to figure out what to call them respectfully. Yeah, so that's it. Obviously this week was a cryptid. I am trying to figure out more ghosty things to talk about. I have been on a cryptid streak. I feel like I know last week I talked about um the lady in white, which, ghost stories. Trying to find other things that are more paranormally like ghost like. I do want to do another abandoned building because I haven't done an abandoned building in a hot minute. So I'm going to try to find one of those. Again, I have all this research and all of it on like basically one subject, and I don't want to give you guys a variety. So sorry, my last like 10 minutes was a rant, but I like talking, obviously, because I can't stop. So here I am. With that, I hope everyone has a good rest of your week. I have many things to do, like organize all of my bookshelves because I'm that person with a lot of books. That's my project for the week. And doing more research. on things. Because that's what we do here. Research, talk about history, and talk about paranormal things. So, if you go ghost hunting, don't forget the salt. As always, do not disappoint Sam and Dean. And stay spooky. Chasing Legends.